a lot of people don't realize your style is already something that exists within you. It's not something that you have to go out and find or copy or try to, invent. It already exists within you. You just have to find those certain things that you do over and over and over again that feel natural.
Dixon interview, take one.
Showtime.
Showtime. Let me just sip this real quick.
Oh yeah, take a sip. Get comfortable.
Yes, I like your shoes are cool.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Hey, welcome to the Social Academy, where we're interviewing industry professionals, influencers, and content creators here in the studio. Today we have Dixie Dixon, Nikon ambassador, fashion photographer. Dixie, I don't know if you want to, I guess we're just going to jump right into this conversation.
Awesome, that sounds great.
Yeah, so how did you get into photography? What's your origin story there?
Yeah, so I'll give you the Cliff Notes version.
Sure.
We don't want to spend forever on that, but I started out with a Nikon camera when I was just 12 years old. I was shooting all the sports teams for like $10 an hour every weekend.
Right.
All the cheesy sports teams photos. I was shooting all those.
Sure.
And then I went to high school, and I actually I was in band, but I joined the yearbook staff to get out of marching band.
Okay, right.
Wasn't so great at marching band. I was
I did band once,
You
and I was like,
did?
I'd play the bassoon, and after 1 year, I was like, I'm not doing this again. But
The bassoon is a very particular instrument.
I just played one song. That's it.
That's awesome.
So with that, so you got into yearbook. That's and you're kind of going where I was wondering too. Is like, what really drew you into fashion photography? Because there's so many different avenues of photography you could have gone in. Food photography, crime scenes. So what really brought you? What brought you into fashion?
Yeah. So when I was in college, I went to TCU. I studied entrepreneurship. And one summer, I Googled fashion photography study abroad, and there was one through Syracuse University.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
good
I applied.
Otto, the orange mascot.
Yes, exactly. So I applied for that program. I got in, so I got to go to London and Prague and study with a world-renowned fashion photographer.
Oh, my gosh.
So that was, for me, that was the moment when I decided that was the kind of photography I wanted to do, because you got to work around a team of people and create, images that really come to life and get the fashion and, work with the wardrobe stylists, the hair and makeup, the models. Like, I love the team aspect.
Yeah.
Because it's like, when you have a team around you, you can create something bigger than you could have created by yourself.
No, totally.
And so that really fed my soul, and I thought to myself, okay, I found it. I found the niche that I really want to focus on.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
No, and I can see how with that experience, which is very rare to get, these times, it's like that I'm sure you've gotten more than any other kind of job, just like being on set with the photographers and all that kind of thing. So, that's really cool. So going from there, going from professional, wondering how'd your journey into social media?
Yeah.
How that started? Was that something you always been on, or was it something you kind of slowly adapted as it kind of became more of a thing? Curious to know what that journey was.
Yeah, it's funny. Growing up, I was never really that into being on computers. I always like to be in that present moment. So this has sort of forced me, to learn that. But it's funny because a friend actually signed me up for Facebook. I didn't even want to be on it. She's like, Dixie, you've got to get on Facebook. Everyone's on Facebook. I was
Give me
okay.
a picture.
Yes, but what was cool was she signed me up for it, and then I was just trying to get into photography and get my name out there a little bit. So I started just uploading all of my photos, and that's so normal now. But right when Facebook was starting, not a lot of people were uploading their work. So I, would shoot portraits of friends and family, and I would share it online. And that was helping me get other clients to shoot for. It wasn't, the niche of photography that I really wanted to pursue necessarily starting out, because I was just trying to take every job that I could to, pay the bills and whatnot. But it was a really great way to get my name out there from the beginning. And I still have people that follow me and remember,
seeing the growth.
Yeah, seeing the growth that happens. So it's cool when they've been like a part of your journey the entire time. That keeps them engaged. They want to see updates and what you're up to now. And it's really kind of cool how because I kind of started my career when social started.
Sure. Yeah, no, I love it. That was kind of the same way. and as you're kind of doing uploading stuff on Instagram, you're kind of slowly building your portfolio and all came naturally. And you're talking about some of your original followers. Was there a moment? What was like the most pivotal moment that I'm sure you kind of shocked yourself and your people like, oh dang, like you're big time now or whatever. Like what's she doing traveling around? What's going on? So curious to know when that moment came. For you. It really kind of there was a huge shift, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's a good question. I still feel like I'm building in a sense, but when I started doing a lot of speaking engagements for Nikon, that really grew the following quite a bit, because I would always, anytime I'm going to do a speaking engagement, I always tell people to follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and that helps get, the name out there. And but that's a good question. I feel like it's always building.
Yeah.
And
was there something, sometimes it always happens where you kind of wake up and you're like, whoa, why is there a huge influx of followers? Who shared what happened? What post went live? Was there that moment that kind of that kind of surprised you?
There was some of those moments. I mean, I've had some of those moments when, say, Nikon posts something and all of a sudden, I didn't know they were going to post it, and then all of a sudden you get this huge influx.
Right.
Or Manfrotto,
cool.
SanDisk. Who else? I can't think of. Profoto is another one.
Right, yeah. So it's kind of, you're kind of tapping into also the tools you use and kind of like tagging into their kind of audience as well, and kind of like, hey, this is what I'm doing with this stuff. No, that's really awesome.
Exactly. But if you can get your work shared on some of those channels, that just kind of helps you really grow organically, and people are like, ooh, who posted this work? And then they'll go follow you.
No, and going back to what you were talking about, so you mentioned Facebook and Instagram. Those are your primary platforms that you focus on? Okay.
Yes. Okay. I haven't gotten into the dancing on TikTok yet, but you never know.
They're trying to get me into it. I don't know. We'll see. I dabbled a little bit. It's fun.
It is
fun. So do you, as you've adapted into social media, kind of sounds like you were a little bit forced on there.
Yeah.
But, as you kind of got into it, do you have the same pressures of trying to keep up with it or keep up posting your photography? I know you a busy schedule. Does that have an effect on you, or is that something you think about?
It does. I feel a lot of pressure, obviously, because my sponsors, the Manfrotto, Profoto, Nikon, SanDisk, they and within our contracts, we have to post like a certain amount of times per month or per year. So I obviously have to I definitely get those done. It's tricky though, because I'm so busy when I get shooting and I'm trying to work on a production and whatnot. It's always like social media takes the back seat, because obviously the productions are what I'm building the social media for.
And usually you're working months in advance, something, a campaign or whatever that's like, well, I can't even share this till months from later. And then when it finally goes up, so.
Exactly. It's tricky because sometimes, they'll have a social media blackout on set. And so I can't, if it's a new product that's not launched yet, things of that nature, everyone has to put a phone in the bag during the shoot so that nobody can take any kind of photos or anything, so nothing's leaked out into the public. So that's tricky, because then you don't have the behind the scenes and social content from that shoot to share.
Yeah, you're just telling your friends, and they're kind of like, I don't believe you, I don't know what you're talking about. You're like, just wait when I can share stuff.
Yes, I can share the final product.
Yeah, just like you were talking about this morning. It sounds like you have some stuff coming out, but you can't quite talk about it yet.
Exactly.
That's the hardest feeling, because I'm usually a person like, I just want to share it, just want to show it.
Just get it out there. Absolutely. It's definitely a dance.
Yeah, well, okay, you're tapping into Manfrotto and SanDisk and Nikon, of course.
Yeah.
So how do you build your social community like that? How do you keep your were you intentional about it, or did it kind of naturally grow? And how do you also think about keeping that group engaged?
Yeah, it's really been completely organic for me. I haven't been super strategic, to be quite honest, in the way that I've grown my audience. I find that when you put out authentic work and you put out what you are, essentially, your personality and everything that you do, you're going to attract like-minded people. It's like the law of attraction at work. So I put out there what I love and what I'm passionate about, and I find that people that also have those same passions like to follow me, and we inspire each other. And
I'm the same way. It's like you said, find like-minded people. You find your community
You do.
for yourself, and they find you.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're kind of in that artist zone where you're, again, so probably in another reality, you know what I mentioned, seeing what you see. And then, they always say, I mean, good content's good content. So you're probably
So
just like,
true.
all that matters is I make good stuff and post it.
Yeah,
So.
quality content I
Quality,
think is the biggest thing, because I'm not a volume photographer by any means or director. It's really not about volume in what I do. I mean, I'm not one of those people that's going to be posting every day. There's just not a possibility of that. I think people that can do that are in other industries, because if you think about it, you're only as good as your worst photo that you post.
Yeah.
So I have to be a little bit strategic and just posting like only my best work on there. And those don't happen like every single second of every day, essentially. So
I'm sure you have a almost a recycle bin of photos that you're like, I'm not even going to share this. I'm sure you're very picky on like, okay, this is the one. Which, looking through your feed, is very much apparent. It's like you got the most top of the top, cream of the crop, very particular exact vision of your art, and it's everyone's just like, well, dang. And sometimes I think that can be, especially with smaller photographers, intimidating, thinking like, oh, you're always putting out the best work and you never mess up. I'm sure you've had many other photos that people have never seen the light of day of.
Oh yes, many photos. That's so true. But it's interesting because you got to think about strategically about how you want to build your career. For instance, I have a lot of friends that do photography, and they're really into the teaching aspect. And so they show a lot of their work that wasn't quite up to par and how they made it better, and so people can learn from that. And I think that's really great if you're wanting to focus on the teaching aspect.
But for me,
I'm really just trying to share behind the scenes so I get more clients, like brand work and ad agency work. So I don't do as much of that. I do a little bit of teaching here and there. But I try to focus on just sharing behind the scenes, what I'm up to.
The real kind of like, hey, this
is what I do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, on that similar kind of segue into, I'm sure you get this question all the time. What advice do you have for those smaller photographers starting out?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main thing, especially today, is to basically, as a photographer, when you're starting out, you're trying to find your style. And that's such a tricky dance. I mean, it takes a couple years to really kind of hone in on what your style is, but a lot of people don't realize your style is already something that exists within you. It's not something that you have to go out and find or copy or try to, invent. It already exists within you. You just have to find those certain things that you do over and over and over again that feel natural, from the lighting to the models you choose to the hair and makeup, the wardrobe, everything that really speaks to your soul.
Right.
You've got to really focus on that as opposed to just looking at what everyone else is doing, what's trending. You just got to find your authentic style and your niche. And then if you can focus on just posting that type of work, you're going to start attracting your dream clients. Because if you're posting everything, anything and everything, people don't know where to place you.
Right,
essentially.
Right.
So if you can really find and hone in on that niche and just post that work, even if you're, shooting everything to pay the bills, that's fine. You've got to do that sometimes when you're starting out, but just post that work that really, really speaks to your soul. You'll start attracting those clients.
I mean, that advice is like amazingly perfect. And it's like what I would tell anyone else too. It's like I've gone through a dream where I bought every pen and pencil that ever artist use, thinking I could draw like them. And then you get to a point where you're like, oh, it was there all to begin with. It wasn't the tool. It's really the vision. I think what you're talking about is trusting yourself, your vision, what you're seeing, and being the most authentic you. Because no one else can tap into that.
So true.
But like you said, it is a process.
It is.
And I always tell people like just go with mess up, experiment.
Exactly. And I think, for me personally, I tend to be overly perfectionistic. And I get a lot of anxiety before I post things. And for me, I have to push through that even if it's not, nothing's going to ever be like 100% perfect.
Sure.
So I tend to just have to let go a little bit.
Yeah.
I just need to let go of control a little bit and just put it out there and see what happens, because you just never know what might blow up.
Exactly. It's always that one thing where as much as you spend time on what you might consider your best photo ever.
Right.
That one that you're just kind of like, oh, also share that, blows up and takes off, and you're
exactly.
like, okay, well, and that's that. I think that's a good thing. You know what you mentioned is kind of just. You just never know, and don't be afraid to share that.
Exactly, and don't be afraid to mess up. For
yes,
sure.
yes, we all do. Yeah,
sure,
everyone's
we
got.
all
No one
do.
shows the amount of hours it took you to get to that point. So
Exactly.
the unseen work.
Exactly. That's so
Now
true.
coming back to kind of maybe your partnerships and brand ambassadors. We got so how do you have monetized your social media?
Yeah.
Especially working with being in that collaboration with Nikon and the other brands you're talking about. Like how has that played into your
Strategy.
Yeah, strategy,
or-
monetization,
yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the bulk of my income comes from productions. So the social media stuff is like icing on the cake, you know,
Okay.
essentially. But I would say that, you know, the brands will pay a yearly fee for a bunch of different things, from social media to speaking engagements to considering me for campaigns that they're releasing.
Wow. So it's a full package.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a full deal. But I do get a lot of inquiries for, you know, smaller brands and stuff that just want posts, and bigger brands that just want me to post something on my social as like an ad.
Yeah.
And I don't do a ton of that, just because I don't want my account's very personal.
Yeah.
You know, it's a personal and a business page, really. I don't have separate on my Instagram, so I'm careful about doing a lot of that. I don't do a ton of I don't take a lot of the sponsored ad posts.
Sure.
Just because I just don't want my feed to just be one big ad. You know, that it just loses its authenticity, essentially.
Yeah, no, I can already feel that energy too. It's like I would imagine if you did start posting, be like, okay, what's going on here? Did she sell her soul? What's happening?
Exactly. I do not want to sell my soul. Exactly.
So how have you monetized your social media and platform, and really, I guess I want to know how you really got into these partnerships.
Yeah.
And what that kind of entails, because I'm sure a lot of people who are starting off, you know, maybe trying to get those opportunities, like how does that work? Like, you know, what's kind of the behind the scenes on that, which is really unseen.
Yeah,
for the most part.
absolutely. It's funny because I actually did not get these partnerships from social media, believe it or not. I had a business teacher in college at TCU, David Miner. A lot of people know of him.
Little shout out.
Little shout out
David.
there. Yes, so I took a business course with him, and one of the things that really stuck out to me was that he said, whatever industry you're interested in pursuing, go and join the trade organization involved in that industry. So he said, get involved and just start networking with all the different people in that industry so that you learn the ins and outs of that industry before you go into business.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I went home that night and I Googled basically photography trade organization, and there was about 6 different ones. I joined the student versions of all of them. And so I joined like WPPI, Advertising Photographers of America. Let's see, there's so many of them.
Yeah,
but
sure. This is like major
yeah.
extra credit here. I would hope you get in class and be like, wow, you signed for all of those?
You signed up for all of them. And then I started entering contests through those organizations.
Right.
And I ended up winning 2 of them. And so the one I won through WPPI, I got to go to the big WPPI trade show and convention in Las Vegas for free, paid for my trip right out of school. So I won that. And then when I went to that trade show, they were introducing me, the president of Rangefinder magazine who gave me the award. He introduced me to all these different brands at that trade show, because if you think about the trade shows, all the brands are there.
Right.
Like Nikon, Profoto, SanDisk, Manfrotto. So eventually, like, I kept going every year.
Yeah.
And eventually he introduced me to one of the marketing directors at Nikon, and then that's how he literally liked my work, and I kept him updated for about a year, every couple weeks on my new work. This is just aside from social media. And eventually they hired me on to be an ambassador for the brand, and then that led to other ambassadorships. But it was really that trade show that helped me network and see these people in person. So now they're kind of like big families, essentially.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
you, like you said, it was mentioning that, like, I think another important part from that too is really kind of keeping that communication, even if there's no opportunities yet. Be like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and keep up. I'm sure, and that's a really good insight. That, and then also as many, it kind of goes back to the like as much as you connect on social media. Nothing kind of beats that like in-person experience, I'm sure, with the networking and meeting people you never would have met before, I'm sure.
Exactly. Like if you can, in addition to tagging all the gear you're using as a photographer on social media, think about those companies that own the gear and getting in touch with the marketing director and also sending them an email to show the new work you're shooting with their gear. So not just on social, because all these big brands, they have a social media person. Like the marketing director or creative director may not be constantly on social, but if you send them a direct email, they're going to see what you're shooting with their products, and that's just going to entice them more to work with you.
Yeah, it's almost like, it feels like the old school way of like, back then when you would hand in your resume, like, hey, this is what I do, and here's my portfolio on DVD, whatever. But now you're kind of doing that digital form. No, that's man, that is that kind of I'm learning something now myself. I'm like, I need to tap into some of these people I use. Well, and then kind of going from there as you're building these partnerships. Kind of you mentioned earlier about niching down and also when you're starting up, what's your kind of thoughts about like free shoots and really like collaborations? What do you look for in collaborations? Because if you're kind of like knowing your style and niche, like how much does that play into what kind of collaborations you do? And then again, a lot of photographers starting off wondering that fine line of free work to okay, maybe I should start charging.
Yes, always for free work, my rule is always I will do free work if it's my vision. But if someone is asking me for work, then I need to get paid for it because it's their vision. No,
I think it's a fair rule.
Yeah.
Especially as artists. You need some motivation to like, well, I kind of want to do this. And I'll do it if you're letting me, if you give me all the tools and stuff for it. So.
Exactly. And I think you got to consider what is the traction you're going to get on those images. If they've got 500,000 followers and you do some work with them, it might be worth it to get your name out there as well. So maybe even considering that too when it comes to free work. But as a photographer, starting out, you're going to do a lot of free tests.
Sure.
Like test shoots or when you get together, the hair, makeup, the wardrobe, the models. Just because in photography and commercial and fashion, you really have to show what you're capable of shooting in order for clients to hire you. So if you don't have any work to show, how are you going to get hired? It's essentially like building your resume when you're starting out as a photographer and you're trying to just build a portfolio that speaks your brand and what kind of production level you're able to execute. And so you really do have to shoot a ton of free work that's your vision starting out and shoot it like you're actually shooting it for a client. So for me, I went out and shot different fashion for boutiques and stuff like that and different designers and also showing product. Like I would do a test shoot about boots or about sunglasses and they would look like ads. But people don't know necessarily if they were shot as a spec shoot or if they were really for a brand. So if you go out and shoot that stuff, you'll start attracting, like I ended up booking a eyeglass, brand and commercial from some eyeglass shots that I'd done, so there's ways to do the free work, what really drives the productions and drives you to book more work.
To get this, to get to some of these kind of collaborations, would you say like going back to those communities and extra groups you join, do those allow for more of those kind of opportunities and network within that networking?
Definitely, because once one brand works with you, like when I started working with Nikon, some of the other brands were like, they'll look at who the ambassadors are and then want to hire you for different things. And I get a ton of inquiries for like paid posts for other brands and stuff like that. But I'm really particular because, like I said, I don't want it to be my account to be an ad. One of the craziest ones that I got was HelloFresh reached out to me and wanted me to do some cooking posts. I don't cook.
It's like, I like food.
I like food, but it was not on brand and it had to do anything with photography. So I didn't do that one, obviously. So I get a lot of random inquiries like that.
No, I mean that's very strong of you to your self-respect and really keeping true to yourself. I mean, like, man, I'm sure a lot of people love this stuff too, but it just I don't want to do, it could lead you down to what you're talking about, maybe more opportunities where I don't like doing that type of work.
Absolutely. And I don't really honestly consider myself an influencer. A lot of people will say, oh, influencer. I really don't. I'm a photographer and I love what I do and I love to share my work. And on social, I don't really necessarily consider myself an influencer. I'm just putting it out there and seeing what lands.
I'm sure it's a little bit of a tangent, but like when you're collaborating with these other people, kind of like free spec work or whatever, I guess is something you're also aware of, like, oh, they're also needing something to show their boots or fashion, and then they're working for their own kind of work. So I'm sure, just like any artist, that collaboration is very important, where you kind of like, we're all on the same page and mission. I imagine. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone's building their following, and the more followers you get, the more opportunities and eyes that are going to see your work. And that's what's so beautiful about it, is I've gotten jobs off of social media. Just they'll see the Instagram or whatever, and then they'll reach out to me on email for a production, and so that's really cool when it comes full circle. And also I bet it's cool to kind of help some of your friends and colleagues like that, where you're like, hey, I got this connection, would you be open to jump in on that shoot too? Exactly. That's really what I love about what I do, is you get a production and I get to hire my awesome lighting and crew chief. Eric is amazing, Nancy my producer, and get to work with people that I love.
Your entourage.
Entourage. And so that's always so much fun, and we get to work together and create. And clients love seeing the behind the scenes and whatnot. On Instagram, I post a lot of behind the scenes and stories, and so people see what it's like to work with us on set and kind of entice them to work with us on shoots.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you do got a packed schedule, and again, appreciate you coming in. So like with that though, as you're busy with shoots and scheduling and probably meetings with other people, the social media doesn't stop. And so like how do you maintain that outside your business when you're like, are you focused on the metrics if they're down, or do you just kind of accept the ebbs and flows of social media? How and when do you take time to really kind of like, okay, I need to kind of maintain this a bit, give it a little trim, whatever.
I had one of those moments in December. I had back-to-back jobs for like 4 months, and I have all this new content to share now, but December I just dropped off because I just had so much stuff going on. But I think, I posted a new post in the new year and kind of told people I've been busy shooting and creating all this new work and excited to share it all coming up. But I think it's, I don't really get super into the metrics as much because the algorithms are, changing constantly. And, a lot of people on Instagram will hide their like counts, because everything's gone down. Just the way they've done the algorithm. And I really don't. I try not to get, super intense about that. I mean, I don't hide my like count or follower count or anything like that. Just like, it is what it is. I'm putting it out there, and
it goes back to, like you said, like, hey, there might be a lull, but I'm going to post another good photo, and the people who are with me will know.
And then it'll send a reminder that, oh, so-and-so hasn't posted in a while. And but I try to be fairly consistent. I mean, especially for the brands and whatnot and the sponsors, we're supposed to post at least like once a week. So I try to do that at the very minimum. And this year, it's actually a goal of mine to post a lot more. I'm going to try to stay on that. And a lot of people do a lot of scheduling so they can be super consistent. I think that's really good. It's helpful if that's something that you're good at and you're passionate about. But what I tend to not want to happen is create it so that Instagram is or social media is such a job, then it becomes a laborious task that I don't enjoy doing. I try to still take it and keep that fun, just being able to share my work and being excited about it as looking at it as a job.
It's like, man, I'm excited to drop this picture and people are going to flip. They haven't seen this one yet. I kind of went to, I think that's a good keeping it fresh for yourself. Because, like you said, the minute you get lost on stuff, then it's just like you're over. And that overthinking affects, I'm sure, your personal work, whatever. And you don't want to, like, muddy up that vision. I'm sure.
Exactly. That's so true.
So with that, going into, the ebbs and flows of social media, do you have it? do you have any insights or what's your perspective on like the future of social media for like up and coming photographers?
Yeah, I think what is so cool about the day and time that we're living in now is that everyone is a brand essentially, and so everyone needs content. I mean, if you think about it, that's really empowering as a photographer, content creator, cinematographer, because every brand needs content, and so it really empowers us to, you know, go out and shoot and create cool work and get paid for it. But it's interesting because essentially we make the influencers influential. We help businesses move product. You know, we basically create the iconicness of these brands. So we're really powerful. I mean, I think that it's really incredible that we're able to empower these businesses to get their names out there. And I think that it's just going to get bigger and bigger. So we need to look at it, I think, in more positive light. I think social media can get a bad rap, but it's so empowering that we have so many opportunities as photographers out there.
Yeah, no, and like how you word that, the whole influencing the influencer is true. That's some boss level thinking right there. That's for sure. So what's the craziest opportunity that's come from, you know, having a following on social media? Has it led to any kind of like cool VIP situations you've been in, or just like I never would have thought I got a message from this person or a shoot? You know, what has been, I guess, a little story time.
Yeah, a little story time. I mean, I've had a few really cool moments. Like I have a Mini Cooper. It's just so random. And I just was posting just some behind the scenes of my gear and the Mini Cooper, and Mini Cooper Worldwide, like found it and they wanted to post it all over social. I'm like, sure. It wasn't even like for anything. It was more just a behind the scenes for me with my photography gear in the back of it. And so I was excited that they shared that. And then recently, Michael Kors reached out to me.
I'm a big fan of Project Runway. I've watched like every season.
Oh, it's amazing.
And he was always one of the good judges telling it like it is.
I love
that's
that
wild.
brand.
So what was that? What was that like?
So they reached out and they found me on social media, which is really exciting. And they wanted to work with me on a collaboration with Dillard's and Michael Kors.
Wow.
And so I got to shoot a bunch of fashion models with Michael Kors. They were in Dallas. And then they did a big event. So I got to be a part of the event. And then they sent me home with a bunch of product. And I was like, I'm not even an influencer. I get to go home with the cool Michael Kors bag and all this. It was very unexpected.
Yeah, no, I'm sure as your younger self too, going like, now I'm touching these brands and things that I used to see at the malls and whatnot on brand, and now you actually are you're touching it. You're giving it kind of creative direction. That is, what a trip! I bet that full circle.
Trip.
You know,
It was sort of surreal.
Do you see working with like those? I'm sure as with Nikon or getting in touch with Michael Kors and Dillard's and doing the kind of shoots with that, is that that process I'm sure is also very different than your normal kind of like shooting photography for fun or whatever. I'm sure there's a lot more layers to it. Is that something that experience is unique and different?
Yeah, it was a different kind of experience production-wise, because they just wanted some really cool content with all their things more lifestyle and organic as opposed to a set shot list. You know, most clients have that set shot list where it's like they need horizontals, they need long verticals, stuff for billboards, which is, you know, the Michael Kors Dillard's shoot was just creating really interesting, cool content with all of their product.
Wow. So it sounds like that's like on the opposite end of the spectrum. Like you got pretty good creative freedom. Yeah. Tap into that. What about the opposite? Has there been a way where it's like, hey, you just take this picture this way and this angle? You know, has there been any kind of clients that get really specific about that?
Yes, clients get really specific. Yeah, it really depends on the client. I love it when I have creative freedom, but a lot of times they need some really specific product shots or product with models, and you're just, you know, you have one main shot for the day, and that's like the shot you're creating, you know. So it kind of varies, and I kind of enjoy both. You know, I can be super controlling and perfectionistic about that one shot, and then I can also be off the cuff and kind of shoot for fun and just create, you know.
That's a good way to look at the balance.
Yeah.
I think that's always important. You know, you have those times where you're like, okay, I'm done with the super strict client work. I want to kind of just do my artsy stuff. And then, okay, I'm kind of drawing blank on art stuff. I need some rules right now, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's a nice balance.
Well, I guess we're getting to wrap up, but before we go, what's your number one piece of advice for getting started?
Ooh, I would say the main piece of advice that I have is whatever you're creating now, just get it out there. Like, there are so many amazing photographers that no one knows about because they create this amazing work, but then they don't share it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important just to let go of the perfectionism a little bit and just get your work out there, even if you're still finding your niche.
Yeah.
Like a lot of new photographers, they're shooting everything to try to discover what their niche is. I would say in the beginning, go ahead and post all that work. You know, you'll start seeing what hits well and what people resonate with. Usually they're going to resonate with the images that are really uniquely you, like the personal work.
Yeah.
And then you can start, once you discover what your niche is and your passion is, then you can really start posting that. But it takes a little while to get there.
Yeah.
So I would say post that and post as much as possible. Try to be consistent. Think about when your clients are online. I tend to post in the evenings because I feel like creatives are night owls, and I like to scroll the gram at night, you know?
Yeah.
So I do actually post quite a bit in the evening, but I do find that it's very much authentic to myself because I'm a night owl, and other clients, you know, that are similar to me are the same way. But it's really, I think, a good idea to share your behind the scenes, post that consistent final work. Reels is really big right now because Instagram's trying to be TikTok, but it's good to post some short reels. I think those are really good to drive traffic if you really want to build your following. That's kind of the key.
And really just, I guess also, just embrace that whole process. The good and the bad, it sounds like. And even some of the ugly. Just bear it all out there, it sounds like. And you're going to learn. I think it's the best way to learn.
Exactly. And it's a dance. You don't look at it as a short term. Don't be looking at what everyone else is doing and try to be trendy. Like, oh, this photographer is doing that, I'm going to try that. I mean, you can try different things, but I think people look at social media in more of a short-term way. You really got to look at the long-term because it takes a while to build a following.
Yeah, it's never ending.
Never ending, that's for sure.
Well, thanks for coming in today, Dixie. This has been awesome. I don't know if you want to plug anything, any projects you got coming up, whatever, if you want to give a shout out to.
Absolutely. Well, my Instagram is under I am Dixie Dixon. Dixie Dixon wasn't available, unfortunately. And then on Facebook as well, I think it's under Dixie Dixon Photography. And I have some new projects coming out, but I can't share them yet.
No, it's cool. And I, again, encourage everybody to check out our page. Fantastic work.
Oh, thank you.
Really gorgeous stuff. And again, a lot of good variety, too. I was just like, wow, fashion. Beauty, lifestyle, it's like you're tapping into everything, and it all looks gorgeous. So,
thank you.
Anyways, thanks for coming in. This has been this has been the first episode of the Social Academy.
Yes.
So yes, I appreciate it breaking it in, and stay tuned as we say. Or I was gonna do my tagline. Anyways, hey, class dismissed.
Perfect. Thank you.